Hi, and welcome to Beyond the Breakthrough. I'm Rachelle Rohner, your host, and I am so excited to have you here. This channel was created as a space for all of us to celebrate our achievements and successes, gain tips and tools to move beyond the breakthrough, and to be inspired to create change. So let's jump in. Hey everybody, welcome back to Thrive Stories. I'm Rachelle Rohner, and I'm excited to have you here today. This is the place where we're going to dive deep into incredible journeys of people who have faced challenges head on, broken through obstacles, and are now thriving on their own terms, just like you and I. Every story that I share here, every interview is unfiltered, it's real, and it's filled with a valuable lesson and inspiration to the person that was going through that process. And today I am very excited to be joined by Alison, who has a really amazing story that probably a lot of people have experienced or are experiencing and don't necessarily know. So I'm really excited for her to share this and help educate us a little bit more. So get comfy and we're going to dive into the conversation about overcoming Alison's challenges. So Alison, welcome. Please take a second and introduce yourself to everybody.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Alison Bomba. Professionally, I am a child psychologist with a private practice in Frederick, Maryland. Um, and I'm a very active community member, and I'm eager to share my story.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's get started. So, as you know, this is all about overcoming obstacles. So, can you share with us a time in your life when you faced a significant or maybe a smaller obstacle or challenge?
So, after about 8 years of experiencing pain and a myriad of other debilitating symptoms, and seeking medical care from various specialists, I was finally accurately diagnosed and treated for endometriosis just last year. And I truly feel like I have my life back now. My story is one of self-advocacy, and my personal story, I believe, ends with me, the educated patient, knowing more about endometriosis than one of the top GYN surgeons in Maryland who was unable to treat me and unwilling to admit that. Um, so, because I advocated for myself, educated myself, and sought out the proper treatments, um, here I am now.
Yeah. And that is really hard, right? Because we are very trusting when we don't have that knowledge. We're trusting of the professionals that are supposed to have that knowledge. And it's hard to let go of that, I think, a little bit and separate and like take on that power for yourself and dig into that. So that's amazing in and of itself. So as you were going through this process, it sounds like it maybe kind of was a long process for you. What was your mindset like throughout? You know, did you have those ups and downs? Did you cycle back through some things? And how did it like really affect your ability to move forward in finding answers for yourself?
Mm. Yeah, I felt incredibly frustrated for a really long time. I was dismissed by multiple doctors, but I was also incredibly determined to get to the bottom of things and to obtain an accurate diagnosis and the proper treatment. And you're right. I think many people are intimidated by doctors and people with advanced degrees, and we just assume that they know more than we do. And it's hard to question them when our gut is telling us that something's wrong.
Yeah. Was there a specific moment in the journey when you were working with these professionals that you were like, I can't do it this way anymore. I've got to do something else. I've got to do some research or, you know, you said you became your own advocate and you became educated. Was there like a turning point there or how did you get to that place where you're like, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to do this for me.
Yeah. So I was experiencing these pain attacks. I would call them pain attacks
Mhm.
that were becoming more and more frequent and more intense. And my symptoms ended up being pretty life limiting, and there was just no way I could continue living that way. So I really began advocating for myself and prioritizing getting this figured out in January of 2023 when the symptoms just became so intolerable. I did some research on my own and I suspected that I may have endometriosis. I made an appointment with my gynecologist, who I'd seen for many years, to ask her what the next steps would be to figure out what was wrong with me. And I just insisted that I needed to do something more. And as we talked about my worsening symptoms, she shared that she suspected that I may have endo. And again, I already suspected that myself because I already did my own research. She provided me with a very confident referral to one of the top gynecological surgeons in Maryland who happened to be an oncologist. So at this point, I already knew that laparoscopic surgery was the only way to diagnose endo. And after meeting with this surgeon, he told me that he would do this surgery. And if he found any endo, he would remove it during the same surgery. So I had the surgery in, I guess this was the summer of 2023. When I woke up from the surgery, I was told that I did, in fact, have endometriosis. He diagnosed me with stage 2. And the surgeon had found endo in 4 areas and told me that he removed it all. And he said that my left ovary had endo all over it and that the endometriosis was causing my ovary to stick to my pelvic wall, which was the main source of my pain. And this all made sense to me. That's where the pain was really localized. So he said that he freed my ovary and said I should be feeling better as a result. And I was just so relieved, right, to finally have this all taken care of. But in the weeks and months following this surgery, I actually felt much worse. The pain was worse than ever. And I accessed the post-operative report and read that the surgeon had actually only sent 2 samples to pathology for testing, not 4. So I was confused and I contacted the surgeon's nurse who had assisted him in the operating room to ask for clarification. And she told me that while the surgeon did in fact find what looked like endo in 4 areas, he actually only removed it from 2 because he didn't want to damage my ovary and my appendix. So I was so frustrated at that point because I had undergone this surgery and I was so confidently told that the surgery was a success and I should be feeling better. And knowing that the surgeon left endometriosis in my body and that my symptoms were now somehow worse, I was just very frustrated. So this prompted me to begin to better educate myself. And I learned that the only way to effectively treat endo is through complete excision, where endo is essentially dug out from the root. And I learned that ablation or simply having a hysterectomy or managing the pain with medication does not stop endo from continuing to grow and spread and does not stop the pain or the other symptoms. And I had many other symptoms associated with endometriosis. I was so fortunate to find a list of the true endometriosis specialists using excision. This list is categorized by country and
Oh,
had, yeah, this is really specialized training, and there are very few people in the world who are properly trained to effectively treat endo. So I have this list now, and I had consults with 5 different surgeons in 4 different states. I made this my job. I also scheduled consults with a few other local gynecologists and GYN surgeons who did not specialize. I really just wanted a really comprehensive picture, and my hope was that like 2 of these surgeons would give me the same recommendation. I would feel good about it and move forward. And I scheduled a follow-up appointment with the surgeon who did my first surgery to let him know that I felt worse and to ask him how he actually removed the endo. This was the most frustrating appointment I've ever sat through.
oh.
He would not tell me how he removed it. I asked him 3 times, and I'm using the words, did you use ablation? Did you excise it? Did you burn it? Did you use a laser? And he finally said he buzzed it, which I'm guessing means ablation, which means you scrape it away, so leaving the root. He told me that if I was asking if a second surgery would be recommended, he would not recommend it, which I thought was interesting coming from a surgeon. Um, he instead recommended medication to manage the pain. Um, the other non-endo specialists all recommended meds to manage the pain, and some also recommended a hysterectomy. But all five of the endo specialists I consulted with, they all recommended the same thing. So, um, about a year ago, in February of 2024, I had a second laparoscopic surgery to completely excise all my endometriosis. I also had a hysterectomy and removal of my left ovary and my appendix because they had endo all over it. Um, this surgery was supposed to be 2 hours long and ended up being almost 5 hours because the specialist diagnosed me with stage 4 endometriosis, uterine fibroids, and adenomyosis. And she found and completely removed endo from 22 areas in my pelvis. So I guess that top GYN surgeon missed some.
My
Um,
goodness.
yeah. So that's a long answer to your question, but that was,
No,
yeah.
that's incredible, right? And I
Yeah.
think that it just goes back to what we were saying before is like you have to listen to yourself,
Mhm.
right? Your gut. It's so hard to listen to your gut, right? Because there's so much external noise out there.
Yeah.
You have to figure out which of those things to go with. And so thankful that you kept pushing through and found this new surgeon who was able to help you. Wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible. That is really incredible. I'm wondering because that sounds like a lot of different steps, a lot of different things that you had to navigate. It wasn't just let me call here and get this answer and go. Like it sounds like it was kind of spread out and piecemeal together to find and land in this right place with this right person.
Mhm.
What were some of the first steps that you took or some of the first things that you did to know which way to navigate? Like, you had the surgery, you weren't feeling better, you were told this was it, let's manage the pain. Where did you start? Like, how did you know where to go to seek further support?
I mean, I know you're not supposed to Google your symptoms, but I mean, the first thing I did was educate myself. So
Okay.
I'm doing online research and I was just super committed to becoming an expert on endometriosis because I knew whatever I had done did not work, right? Um, Fortunately, I also know someone who had recently undergone a major and very complicated surgery for endo.
Mhm.
So I reached out to her for questions. I would say hers was much worse, actually. She recommended a Facebook group called Nancy's Nook. Actually, the formal name is Nancy's Nook Endometriosis Education. And um, this was honestly the most helpful resource. This is where I obtained the list of specially trained excision surgeons. Um, there were links to documentaries. There was just a lot of research. Um, I can't speak enough about the need, the importance of educating yourself,
Yeah.
advocating for yourself.
Yeah. And finding the right and credible places to do so. So we'll
Right.
definitely make sure that we link that Facebook group for anybody watching in the show notes so that they can directly head over to that if that's something that they're seeking. So this seems like a lot, right? And a lot of things that you had to do while managing your life and your business and your practice and all of these things.
Mm.
How did this obstacle or the breakthrough of it impact other areas of your life?
Well, once I had this second surgery, I felt like a brand new person, right? Like, I mean, I was amazed at how good I felt. There were symptoms I didn't even realize I had that went away. So as I'm recovering, I realized that I could think more clearly and I have more energy. So I had all this brain fog and this fatigue and bloating and all these symptoms that I didn't really understand were affiliated with the endo. And
Yeah.
prior to that second surgery, I was really, really struggling. I mean, I was canceling plans left and right. There was one time where I had to end one of my client sessions early because I felt a pain attack coming on, and there was no way to stop it. I mean, they would come on so abruptly without warning, and I felt like I had 60 seconds to lay down, pop 4 ibuprofen, and just, hopefully put a heating pad on and wait it out. And these would last for like an hour. I ended that session early, canceled my next client, called my husband to have him pick me up, and I was literally in a dress laying on the sidewalk behind my office building, waiting for him to pick me up. So it was just
Yeah.
really horrible. So
Yeah.
I just feel like a whole new person now that
That's
it's treated.
amazing. I'm so happy for you. That makes me happy that you're feeling good. Um, so you talked about your husband being there to support you, and it sounds like this Facebook group was incredible for you.
Yeah.
Were there any other supports or any, speaking directly to someone who's hearing this story and thinking, I need some help with this, any other supports, either resources or communities that you found that were helpful for you through the process?
Um, yeah, that Facebook page was everything. I mean, my husband was hugely supportive throughout the 8 years that I struggled with these symptoms. So I'm incredibly lucky to have a loving and supportive partner, and he was just so patient and so validating. But the Facebook group provided all the education that I needed. And having those consults, right, getting like second, third, and fourth opinions was just so affirming to get the same thoughts and feedback and recommendations from each professional after I was getting the same terrible feedback and recommendations from the non-specialists.
Yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
Um, if you could offer one piece of advice for someone who is facing a similar situation, whether it be with endo or with another maybe physical illness or something else where they're just feeling something's not right, the advice I'm being given is not, it's not working, or it's not feeling like in my gut right. Like what would that be? What advice would you give to someone who's knowing something needs to be changed or different?
Yeah. Well, with endo specifically, I mean, first of all, I think the symptoms that people experience are really unique to the person. I know other people have endo and have other very debilitating symptoms, but I think that I would encourage anyone experiencing any similar situation to trust their bodies and to educate themselves, to question the doctors, to be their best advocates.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Allison, thank you so much. This is a very powerful story, and one that I could have never shared because I haven't experienced it. And that's why I love doing these interviews and having, people with different experiences here, because there is someone out there. I actually know quite a few people who have or have had endometriosis, and I can't support them, but I'm really hopeful that your story, because it is very inspiring, not just that you've come out on the other side and you're feeling better, which is amazing. And I'm very happy for you. I'm sure your quality of life is just improved significantly, but the motivation and inspiration that comes from your journey specifically and how you navigated that is very inspiring to people. And I hope that that sits well with somebody. But thank you so much for being here and for being vulnerable to share this story. And like I said, we will absolutely post that Facebook group in the description so that people can link directly there. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us? Anything you'd like to say to the viewers?
Well, I guess just to throw out a little statistic, from what I've read, 1 in 10 women will experience complications from endometriosis. It's more common, I think, than people realize. Um, Not everybody has symptoms, right? It's not always problematic to people, but 1 in 10 people, from what I've read, are having complications from it. But it is treatable. So I would just
It's
encourage
good to
anyone
know.
who's
Yeah.
experiencing, symptoms to get checked out.
Yeah. And it's not your fault. It's not something you've done wrong, but it can be helped.
Yeah,
Right.
in fact,
So,
it's highly genetic, and thought to be in our DNA, and so therefore,
Mhm.
in the DNA of babies in utero.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You really did learn a lot. I love
I
it.
learned a lot. Yeah.
I love it. That's great. Well, thank you so much again for sharing your story. And guys, if today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Yeah, your thoughts in the comments, your encouragement for Allison, any questions maybe that you have, because she'll be able to see those. But don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel so you can see more stories and find the one that really hits home for you, the one that impacts you the most. And just incredible people sharing incredible moments of overcoming obstacles and now thriving in their lives. So thanks so much for joining today. Remember, breakthrough is closer than you think. Here's to your next breakthrough. Dream big, take action, and we'll see you soon.